Welcome to Conversations, the Cutting Edge of Technology. This is the series where we talk to leaders at the forefront of innovative industries. Today we'll be discussing how you can build high-performance technology and product teams. And I'm joined by Suvrat Joshi and Daria Oborian. Suvrat, could you please give us a quick introduction to yourself?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me and hosting me here. I've worked with Daria for a while now and excited to have this conversation and discussion with all of you. Quick background. I've worked at large and small tech companies over the years as a product leader. And more recently, I've spent more time in smaller companies and startups. Currently, I'm at Veriff, and I joined Veriff about a year back. It's been an amazing journey thus far, leading product design, operations, and product marketing. And a small shout out to the founders or co-founders of Veriff, Carl and Yanner, for this opportunity here.
Yeah, thank you, Suvrat. Good to have you with us. So I'm Daria. I manage the supply chain and RFID team at Gillespie Matters. We are executive search firm specializing in different technology markets. And I'm sure I will share a little bit later on our story with Suvrat and how did we get to work with each other.
I just wanted to touch on, Suvrat, you've got a very impressive CV. I just wanted to ask if you could share a bit about your journey in the tech industry and how you arrived at your current role as SVP of product at Veriff.
I've had the opportunity, the benefit, I guess, of working in multiple domains across companies of various sizes, big techs to small startups. I think the experience has been really good. It's been enriching and really helpful for me to grow myself, grow my knowledge, grow my product expertise as well. And you learn kind of different things from different environments and different domains. And so, yeah, the journey has been really good. It's kind of helped me build a lot of skill sets and different things that I bring to the table very often.
Brilliant. And if you could both just give me a quick overview of how you came to know each other and how you've worked together as well.
So we came to Suvrat about 3 years ago, just under 3 years ago. We already had by that time a good partnership and a relationship with the business, and we were hiring across the globe for a variety of mid to senior roles. But there was a pressing need to help Suvrat to build the entire product team in the US, so the product managers and product directors, and that's exactly what we collaborated on, putting the right people in those positions and also ensuring that they can be successful and a base of a high performing team within the product management for Suvrat there.
Yeah, I think Daria just nailed it. It has been a great collaboration. I think hopefully we will have a chance to get into some of the specifics on what made it a good collaboration. But yeah, I think Daria covered it really well.
Brilliant, thank you. So, Suvrat, you've worked in various different industries, lots of different roles. How has your diverse experience influenced your approach to building product teams as a leader?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very interesting way to look at things, because this different experiences from large tech to smaller startups across actually multiple domains is really has been a way for me to learn and grow, as I mentioned earlier. And you learn different things in different places. So for example, at large companies, it's given me a really good sense of structure, a sense of scale. And from smaller companies, I've gotten a opportunity and learning of how to be scrappy. And how can you build products in a more scrappy way, bring a little bit more product hustle to the table, perhaps. And let's talk about domains as well, right? So logistics domain is such an interesting one, where it's a mix of the physical world and the digital world. If you're typically in many of these newer SaaS spaces, it's primarily all digital. But logistics is one where there is some physicality to the product. There's people driving trucks. Trucks break down. You've got to kind of address those things. And that's really the interesting part about it. And all of this really just brings together a bunch of experiences that help build my current product suite, the next product suite, and so on.
And could you highlight for us maybe just some of the key lessons you've learned from your time at some of the larger companies, such as like Microsoft, Dropbox, Facebook, to name just a couple of those, versus, I suppose, the more startup, smaller company environments?
Yeah, for sure. And maybe I'll just talk about product leadership in some of these larger places. And one thing that maybe I'll use a cliched phrase here, And it's like a toolbox or a toolkit, and every experience adds really to that toolkit. And these companies in their own way have different given me different tools or added to the toolkit in different ways, right? So for example, Facebook has this culture of move fast and break things, and it's awesome. It really brings the sense of product urgency. It brings a sense of delivering with data. Uh, in Dropbox and Microsoft, you really can't take that move fast and break things approach because it's a business critical environment. And so you need a little bit more structured setup. You need longer term thinking. The leadership principles therein are then aligned with that, right? So for example, a longer term platform mindset really completely makes sense. And if you take a step back, it's really, really amazing to see that both of these companies or all three of these companies have been successful in their own way. Right? So it's not that there's one set formula that drives success across large tech, even in that way. And I'm really grateful for these experiences that has really helped me grow as a product leader. I know we're not talking about big tech, but even at Veriff, which is still a smaller startup, we have a principle of trust meets accountability, and that's really critical for our business to build trust, to build accountability, and create a trust and secure layer of the digital world. And that's another way of looking at this, and it kind of always all comes together. And just to close it out, I would just say that every company has its own thing, and it really adds to the value set that each individual takes forward with them, and it helps each company be successful in their own way.
Mm-hmm. Does that track with your experience, Daria, working with a variety of organizations you have in your career? The differences that Suvrat has mentioned with the larger organizations versus the smaller ones, with maybe the more startup environments. Does that kind of track with your experience?
Yeah, absolutely, 200%. It's almost like a commonly known fact that you definitely have a lot less structure or no structure in smaller businesses, especially if they are startups, especially if they say, for example, they are pre-seed or seed funding, so they're not gone to maybe series A, B, C, and D when it's more established, and they just feel like, oh, we've got it, because they do have it at that stage. So no structure, all hands on deck, people wearing multiple hats. It's a given, it's a fully expected from every single person. When you often see CEOs going and trying to help the deals, to close the deals and things like that. There is a lot more structure in bigger organizations, but there is also a lot less flexibility. Sometimes it takes going through 10 different layers to try to get a signature before you can move on with the project. So that certainly adds, I can see Suvrat smiling in there. It certainly adds complexity to what you're trying to do, how quickly you can move, how adaptable you can be with your clients and projects. So there are pros and cons to pretty much all of them, right? You don't have a perfect environment that works for everybody.
No, of course. Given all of your, kind of the wealth of your experience, what do you think are critical factors, sort of regardless of domain or company size, that you think are essential in building and leading high-performance product teams when it comes to hiring and nurturing talent in those teams?
Yeah, neat, and love the question. There are quite a few factors that play into building and creating high-performance teams and actually helping them be successful. And it really starts with defining and defining the right role. So it really starts all the way back there, and then finding the right individual, filling the role, hiring, onboarding, and then the journey follows through into the individual joining the company and so on.
Yeah.
A few factors do come to mind across this journey. First one I would say is culture fit. I think it's essential that a culture of transparency, open communication is created for success. Establishing common goals is important. If the team grows in the same direction, you're definitely going to make more progress than people who are pulling in different directions. So that establishing a common goal and driving towards that is awesome. Decisioning is often underrepresented in these areas, and helping the team come to fast decisions, data informed decisions, avoiding analysis paralysis is really important to help remove blockers for the team. And the last one I would add in is creating or fostering a learning culture, because no team is perfect. Teams continue to evolve. But what's important really is that the team continues to learn and grow, so that from each experience that they have, they are bringing in new learnings and really creating that improvement or that evolution which brings them to a better place. So those are the four I would call out. Again, there's quite a few out there, but this is probably the four that come to mind across the journey.
So there's a lot more to it than just assembling the dream team. There's that sort of constant nurturing and development of the team as well. So what about from your perspective, Daria, on the talent acquisition side of things?
Absolutely. The culture fit is super crucial. Suvrat knows there could be people with the best looking resumes, with a great experience in the background, but would they fit and work well with your team? That's another question, So the product knowledge, the domain knowledge, obviously are very important, as well as a skill set. And in certain situations, the educational background plays a big part as well. And ability to really, I guess, that goes back to the cultural fit, wanting to be a part of the team. It's not just, am I being able to get on with the hiring manager and some of the team colleagues, this goes much beyond that. You should be able to work with different customers across different teams and cross-functionally in the business, especially if it's a big business as well. So it's very important for people to really feel that they want to be there, that desire that I actually share the visions and the strategy of the business, and we are working together as a team towards those common goals, because that really what makes it a dream team, so to speak. That's when you get the high performance, people are happy coming in, and they really don't view that as a job. They really see that as a career.
So just on that same sort of topic, Suvrat, could you share a few insights into how you personally identify and nurture top talent within your teams?
Yeah, I'd like to build on what Daria said, and she captured some of this quite nicely as well. Identifying top talent, I think, is a combination of domain expertise, product expertise, and culture fit, or in a kind of how things get done in a way, right? So it's a combination of all of the above. And for product, I'll add in a couple more, which is things like driving strategy, execution, and results. So one thing we have to keep in mind is that not everything is applicable to all PMs. And for example, someone who is a little bit early in an early stage career ladder, they would have a different evaluation criteria, perhaps a little bit more execution oriented. Somebody who's a more senior product leader will probably have a slightly different criteria. Team management comes into play, strategy comes into play. And that's kind of how I think about identifying and nurturing top talent. You really have to take all of that into account, including seniority of the individual, including their expertise areas and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of the approach I take. It's kind of been helpful over the years to kind of put that in place.
Oh, thank you. So it's spoken quite generally so far, but in your role as Chief Product Officer when you were at FarEye, that obviously involved transforming logistics. So how does product leadership differ when you're working in the supply chain and logistics industry specifically, outside of just sort of general technology?
Yeah, brilliant question. And I touched upon one of this earlier, which is the physicality of this domain is so interesting. A lot of my prior experience prior to FarEye had been in the digital only domain. And then this physicality really is interesting. It's different. Like I said, there's trucks, there's traffic, trucks break down, and it's not that easy to just hit a reboot switch and restart the computer. It doesn't work that way for trucks, right? And so that's been one element that's been, I would say, fairly unique. The second one I would call out is that this industry has been around for a long time. I'm not talking just decades, it's been around for over centuries, right? And it's got its own way of getting things done. It's got its own rhythm to it. And it's not that easy to just come in and disrupt and change and bring about that sort of a transformation. It's important to adapt to that environment, to learn from the environment, be a participant in that environment, and then transform that to bring about the digital change and the transformation that everyone is looking for and everyone is working on. I found it to be quite a bit unique compared to some of the other areas around SaaS or AI, which are more trendy, which are more buzzy and fairly new in that sense. Then these areas in supply chain have been around for a lot longer and been placed a lot longer. And maybe just close out for this part, I would say that you have to take a look at the classic customer first lens in this case, right? Where in SaaS domain, many of the customers are knowledge workers or digital workers as we kind of think about it. In logistics supply chain, really that persona, that typical user is really someone who is in a physical space delivering that product to our doorsteps I think it's amazing, and it's just fascinating to kind of be able to work through those sorts of problem spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I can see the passion through what Suvrat is saying. But yeah, it's a very specific domain, as Suvrat very correctly mentioned. It's been around for a long time, and then typically with systems like that, you have well-established ways of how they deal and operate. So and while there are new trends of maybe incorporate some of the AI applications at the moment in certain areas of transport logistics and even on the last mile side, again, innovation is not something that happens overnight. And at the end of the day, it needs to be done with the right approach, because that adaptability and agility needs to be taken into consideration, because you are bridging two worlds, the physical and the digital one, and the one that has been very, very well established. So it needs to be done with the right sort of angle, with the right approach. But that's already kind of work in progress globally, I would say, Suvrat. Yeah?
Yep, for sure. It's already in progress.
Yeah.
And were there any sort of specific challenges or opportunities you encountered in your role at FARI that were maybe specific to the logistics space? And how did you sort of address those?
Sure. So first up, maybe a shout out to the co-founders of FARI, Kushal, GS, and GK are just an amazing individuals and brilliant co-founders. So kudos on building up FARI. And yeah, in terms of challenges, we had a very geographically diverse customer base and a geographically diverse team. And managing across multiple time zones, working with customers across multiple time zones was actually not trivial. And that was one of those interesting challenges that I think everyone is experiencing. And yes, the other one is like, we are certainly past COVID restrictions now. I think things are just almost back to normal. But when we were in the midst of it, it was really challenging to work through some of these COVID related scenarios. And it really was an interesting challenge. I think it was for everyone, but it was certainly for us as well. And we did work together as a team to kind of, figure out the right solutions for us, for our customers, and just navigated the situation working with our customers. I would say these were a couple of really interesting challenges that came up as part of that role. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you can relate to the sort of diversity of geographies and the challenges that can bring up, Daria, in your role.
Yeah, 100%. Maybe in a slightly different dimension to what Suvrat has been doing as part of the Chief Product Officer role, but absolutely, you have to have an ability not just to handle the time zones, but actually ability to work with people coming from different countries, different cultures, because there are certainly different nuances when you have a customer in Japan versus when you have a customer in Brazil, and the right approach sometimes means everything, being able to find solutions, especially when problems arise. And that's a very, I guess, common situation in logistics and supply chain world.
So when it comes to sort of building those strong product teams, obviously talent acquisition plays a pivotal role. So Suvrat, could you share a couple of insights into how you've collaborated with talent acquisition partners in your previous roles, obviously Gillespie Manners and otherwise?
Yeah, firstly, Daria and then Gillespie Manners, of course, have been amazing partners through the entire hiring process at FARI. Daria in particular was really awesome to work with. It's been a year since over a year since I left FARI. And look, Daria and I are still in touch. I'm here, she is here. I think that should say something. I really hope everyone is fortunate enough to have a partner like Daria, like Gillespie Manners to work with. A small shout out to the FARI HR team as well, HR and recruiting team. I think they were brilliant, and it's really well deserved in working and bringing all of this together and making it happen. Coming to your question, our collaboration, I would say, was close to ideal or close to perfect, and it was all about setting up a regular cadence to talk through issues, having an open dialogue of what's working, what's not working, and then to iterate and kind of work through all of that. Right? We collaborated on everything. Collaborated on JD. We defined the target profile. We learned some in the earlier days, and they kind of modified things or changed things as we kind of progress further. And overall, there was a really strong partnership, and we were motivated in the same way, just to find the right individual for the right fit. And it's not like we agreed every single time, but because of the transparent, open collaboration and communication, we were able to work through those issues. And for me, that was really important to be able to come to a conclusion that was healthy and appropriate and really good and strong for Farah's success, for the team's success. And I think that was brilliant. So that's why I say this collaboration was, I would say, close to ideal for me.
Thank you, Suvrat, for your kind words. I really enjoyed working with you because with being in recruitment for over 12 years, it's not always that you work with a client that really understands that you have to work in a collaborative manner, where you have to listen and give advice and being able to accept that advice as well, you know. So that's why I think we worked really, really well between our teams. And at every step of the way, there was a proper communication, which is important because what you just described, Suvrat, is basically, I would call it the foundation of building any business relationship. It could be with your customers, with your suppliers, vendors, and anybody else like that. Yeah. Because whenever you hit any problems or issues, or there are some disagreements, you have to be able to hear both sides and work the best way forward that will be mutually beneficial and achievable as well. Because every activity we do has got to have the right outcomes and the right results. We're very much in the outcome-driven business, you know, and I think that's the reason why we work so well, and I would welcome an opportunity to work with you in the future.
From your perspective, Suvrat, are there any other qualities that leaders should look for when hiring for product roles specifically, particularly in kind of innovative and fast-paced industries?
One is that there's always an X factor. It's really hard to define it at times, but it's about building about a sense of curiosity, the ability to learn, maybe create a product in a hacky way. I think that's really important. That X factor is what I would call it. That's kind of maybe sometimes special in product. And the other one is really the type of industry that one is working in. If it's a fast-paced industry, potentially a startup, I think the ability to flex, the ability to adapt, the ability to operate in a slightly more chaotic or a dynamic environment is really important to keep in mind. As something to look for, as something to be clear about. Depending on the role, depending on the industry, depending on the area, size of the company, and so on. So maybe I would just add those few things to everything that we already talked about and Daria called out as well.
Sure. Yeah, I agree with Suvrat. And the X factor, I think it's either something that maybe people will naturally have in themselves, but I truly believe that there is an opportunity to grow and nurture that in them once they work for you. So it's something that can be grown in the person.
Suvrat, do you have any advice for emerging leaders and aspiring product professionals that might be looking to get into the space or on their journey towards leadership?
I would just say stay at it, keep learning, keep growing. I think it's important to find your passion and really follow it. There's a ton of opportunities out there, the whole world of opportunities out there. And I believe that by continuing to excel, by continuing to learn and grow, everyone can find really their success path to becoming a stronger product leader, better product leader, lead high performance teams, build great products, and really bring value to that customer. So for me, I think that's the way I would probably want to maybe talk about it, summarize it, or at least that's my sentiment. And I think it's really a great way to approach things.
Yeah. I never believed in perfection, and I don't think I ever will, which means there is always a room for improvement, for that growth, you know, for something else that you did not know yesterday, but you do know today and do not yet know tomorrow. So there's always an opportunity to strive for more learning, for more knowledge, because that knowledge is something that you absolutely will transfer and share within your teams, with your customers, outside of your business as well. And therefore, you can help and enable the growth of future leaders sort of beneath you, you know, people that will come after you. And that's really, really important, especially in this day and age where technology develops so fast. You kind of have to be, you have to keep up with it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Suvrat, for joining us today and for talking to us about your experience building high-performance product teams and working with talent acquisition partners as well. Where can people find you if they've got any questions?
Yeah, first off, thanks again for hosting me. Really appreciate the conversation. Awesome questions. I think this discussion was great. Thanks again, Daria. People can find me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me, DM me, and happy to get connected if you have any follow-ons and questions and so forth. So yeah, again, thanks for hosting me.
Thank you very much for coming on. And Daria, where can people get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is the best way, very much like Suvrat, and we have open door policy, happy to speak to people and help them on their journeys or offer any advice if we are able to.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Zaneba. Thanks, Suvrat.
Thank you.